Hello everybody, it is I'm So Cutie. Today we're going to be looking at Ruby Amethyst. It's been quite a minute since we've done a Brisk breakdown, but 1 week to DLC Milwaukee, and this is probably the only other deck that I found worthy enough to highlight. Yeah, I am in Masters at the moment, so ever since I hit Masters, I have not played a singular game that is not into green-blue. It's actually kind of disgusting. I've only hit green-blue. Green-blue is the only thing that exists in high-elo right now, which is insane. But basically, the meta is dominated by the decks that we all know, right? There's nothing really crazy. Obviously, Dogs is making an appearance now, as we've covered in all our other videos. But it's staying pretty stagnant, right? We have our 5 best decks, and they kind of all beat each other. They kind of all can lose to each other, and so I believe it's pretty healthy, but of course we have Blurple reigning over everything. So I built Ruby Amethyst. Ruby Amethyst is the deck it's a really high skill cap, and I actually don't really think it was figured out yet, and I think it won't be played simply because it's too close to DLC, but I really do think it could have been a crazy contender for one of the best decks in the format. We likely would have had 6 decks alternating. The thing is, Ruby Amethyst plays almost exactly like Purple Steel. It's actually pretty insane how well it plays like Purple Steel, and then has just a much better top end than Purple Steel. So the difference is that from turns 1 through 4, you're establishing basically the same thing. You're establishing the 1-drop, the 2-drop, the 3-drop, and the 4-drop. But the thing is, those 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drops are super pivotal in everything you do. So for example, if I were to even open Rafiki into Powerline or Lumiere, it means that I basically have control of the board, right? Like anything that you may turn sideways, I can answer. So that's number 1. You go into your 3, and even if you have to play Mother Gothel on 3, which isn't actually wanted, it basically says like you can take some dirty challenges. You can hit Rafiki into a Daisy without banishing it, and then hit Powerline into something else simply to move the Rafiki damage to actually take out the Daisy. This deck does amazing into the low end of Amber Steel and Dogs, simply for the fact that if you do unfortunately / fortunately play Gothel on curve, you actually do very well. The other thing is that if you go into Max Goof, you're also still threatening Disputed, and you're also threatening Second Star almost every single time. Going Powerline to Goof basically says, if you don't check this with some sort of high value resource, I get to sing Second Star. Also, on the play, you will always pull it off to any deck, because no deck can play a card on the same turn that you would play Second Star, except Fire the Cannons, but it would have to be 2, or just 1, just to break curve. But yeah, and then number 4, obviously you have Genie, Iago, and Dumbo. These are basically just self-sustaining engines and giant pieces on the board that combat almost everything in the entire game. It's pretty insane, right? If you were to be Hades or Into the Unknown or anything like that, you would basically just go into your top end of Shark and being mono purple, right? And first things first is that being mono purple means you combat a lot, and it means that Bell gets full value of everything happening, and Lumiere corrects every single trade in the game. If you can establish 1 Lumiere, that's already amazing. If you can establish 2, that means absolutely nothing is trading favorably into you anymore, and Bell is not live for the other opponent that is on purple. If they're using Hades to remove draw engines, like Dumbo, Genie, Iago, or your other evasives, or the singers for the Second Star, which I do believe Second Star should be a little bit higher now, Shark gets to live. And this isn't a Shark deck. This is not. That's the hardest thing. You're not trying to run 2 Shark. Shark is there so that if they give you so much additional ink to the point that you can't really do anything else, you just play Shark. And Shark is more than just like a roulette card. It's just a huge control card that says, I can take anything on your board, and you will give me something to take either something from your board again, or draw me 500 cards so I can play a card that helps me clear your board, right? Especially with such a heavy challenge deck like this, you are playing Mother Gothel. This list is actually very thought out. We have seen things similar posted in a lot of chats, and a similar list to this did win a set championship that I want to share eventually, but I just have not gotten around to getting that interview. Your hardest matchup is Blurple. So the thing that compelled me to make this video was I played 2 different players on Ruby Amethyst in Masters that actually gave me a little bit of trouble, especially when it was blind. So I did end up dropping game 1 once, but then I recognized the other one. It just, for a bad Blurple player, the likelihood that you actually out-resource them is super high. And if you break their curve with a really good Disputed, because they don't know how to answer or what they're even doing into you, you do actually take advantage of incredibly bad Blurple players, and you win, as Ruby Amethyst. The thing is, I didn't drop a drop around my Genie, and so my Genie got Disputed when he went wide, and the only thing I could really do to respond was playing a Raw Bell or playing Elsa to take unfavorable trades because of Lumiere. And that's a thing. I mean, if people can't adapt to Ruby Amethyst fast enough, they will lose the game. So the only reason why I do say that Blurple is the hardest is that if a player is able to understand what Ruby Amethyst actually is, which is a tempo purple steel with a higher top end, then they're in a much better position. But if they don't understand that concept, then they're not going to beat you. The easiest has been Green Blue Cow. Again, this is kind of why I see it, and this is why I've played it just for a little bit in Masters, is because Lumiere is just kind of unstoppable. You dump your hand in general. The thing is with your curve, you're not actually that healthy of a deck without second star, and when you drop your curve, you can basically answer anything in the deck. I know a lot of people do play Lose the Way or Lose Your Way to exert the Clarabelles. I do enjoy that, but I do kind of just fall into the Disputed and then kind of hope they don't do anything, because at that point you're already at like 2 cards in hand. Also, if they only play Clarabelle Raw and then You're Welcome and whatever, Disputed actually abuses blue. It really does. Disputed is one of the cards that abuses blue very, very hard. So it has been one of the easiest matchups. These are cards that I've been considering a lot. So the thing with Moana is that in the deck, in the scenarios where you need to play something to answer the evasives, the likelihood is that they have Strength or Elsa, right? So a thing like Moana is kind of just sacking the idea that the 4-drop, if they're gonna pull through in this interaction, is that they're gonna have to hard clear the 4-drop anyways. So playing Iago demands, it could demand a cheaper response, sure, but the drop would be cleared anyways. And if they don't clear it, then Iago is just a much more threatening body, especially in the Gothel Bell package. So that's kind of like my reasoning, but I do think Moana could still be over Iago simply because it's a card that can't just get banished to Hypnotic. Yzma is actually, so again, I really do play this deck like Purple Steel. Yzma is insane in Purple Steel. It really is in any deck that is not blue. But again, this deck abuses blue pretty hard, especially with the Powerline Singers on the bottom. I really think Yzma could find herself at 4 in this deck. The thing is, people need to change their perspective on this deck. It's not a high-end singing deck, roulette, challenging damage deck. It is a tempo control deck. No, it's a tempo deck with a higher end. It's a tempo deck with a very high end that just abuses the challenge meta, and I really think it's there. Powerline, I don't like. There's not enough songs to make it really good, so I just put it there, but people do like playing it. I don't like it. It's not that good yet. I do think that even if like Teeth and Ambitions probably existed, I do think Powerline would be maybe even at 2. Teeth and Ambitions would have broken this deck 100%. If Teeth and Ambitions was still in rotation, this deck would probably be like right under best deck in format 100%. Teeth and Ambitions is an incredibly broken card, especially with Gothel. Second star counts should be up. So again, Ruby Amethyst is hard. I don't think you can just pick it up and play it. I really don't. Lumiere is just one of the craziest cards in the game, in my opinion. I think that if a card like Lumiere existed for other decks, and this isn't just the +1 for challenging, like Skater Mim and things like that. This is the fact that it's a raw 1 that combats Under the Sea. It combats completely bad trades when they come to you. Like, this is such a like proactive and reactive card. Lumiere is just such an intriguing card and such a good card in the meta. It really is, and it sucks that it's restricted by its color of red. If it was any other color except red, I could see this card being at 4 of in almost every single deck. If this card was blue, it'd be a 4 of and a $20 card 100% in if it was blue. And again, you're playing purple. Purple is just one of the highest quality colors, and it will be. If anybody's seen the teasers, I don't know why, but Ravensburger keeps printing purple cards that are just absolutely broken. I really dislike it, but looks like another purple meta next set. So I will see you guys playing purple. Mother Gothel. So I think this is probably one of the most, like, I don't care about being misplayed. The card is pretty complicated in itself. This is probably one of the most misunderstood. The thing is, when people play Gothel, people play like high damage builds. The only thing that has damage in my deck is Mulligan, and that's simply for the randomness factor of like being able to drop it and take damage, especially if they're not tapping. But also the Shift Mulligan. The Shift Mulligan is actually pretty important when clearing really wide boards, especially purple steel. And even in the occasion of mirrors, it's actually pretty good. So that's just a really big thing. I think Mother Gothel is probably like one of the most bannable cards in Disney Lorcana. If there were a lot more interactions in Disney Lorcana where like you got to place damage counters basically for free or somehow cycle damage counters, this card is just insane. The thing is, the process is happening when you challenge, so you can take really unfavorable trades or just a trade where you don't win at all, and simply for moving the 1 damage, you get to just erase another character on the side, or erase the character that you would have been challenging, but the character that you would have been challenging doesn't exist anymore. The interactions are just super, super high skill, and I think this card should have been broken this set, and I think for next set, it'll likely be too slow now, especially if they print some sort of removal, and it looks like they're printing discard, so if there's any card that reads anywhere near like Prince John, where even if it's once per turn, red is likely not sustainable at all anymore. Like, it'll be 100% in the ground, but yeah. But this is a great card. Second star to the right. The deck actually does really well to sing it pretty consistently. There's a lot of times where I was like, dang, I kind of wish I just had it right now. So honestly, it's probably a card at a quality in this deck to like pocket, which is pretty insane, especially for a card like this. But yeah, everybody knows why it's good. Especially since you're purple steel, generally, it's basically just flooding at the end of the game. Like, you play the tempo, you play your 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you just start maneuvering from there. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Again, you have the card pool of purple, and you're playing these at 4 ofs. And again, things like Bell being at 4 of in this deck help you so much in Blurple because they're ramping you, right? That's the only form of removal that they have. And on top of that, with Bell, you also have Gothel. So if their evasives were to tap, and you also have Shark, like, you get to move so much damage around that it genuinely just is not fair. I can't explain the interactions, like, unless you really... If you see a high-level Ruby Amethyst player, Gothel, it's just not a fair interaction. Like, challenging and being able to spread 1 or 2, especially if there's 2 Gothels on board, to the same target or different targets is just like a... It's like Bell being active in every challenge. That's just such of like a surreal interaction, especially with a very, very good Ruby Amethyst player. Yeah, I really think that this deck should have been broken this set, but again, it just has not. Lumiere, I explained it before. Lumiere's +1 being just straight up is just an insane thing. Straight up +1 for it existing is good. Like, obviously you can get like Elsa and whatever, but that means Elsa's exerted and it has damage on it, right? Like, this could literally mean you slam it with like an empowered something else. Like, it could be Moana, it could be Iago, right? You can move 1. I'm pretty sure that means you can move 1 from... You may have 1... Yeah, you can move 1 from the Elsa that has damage to take out, like, in Blurple, for example, like another Bell, or in other decks like Happy, or Merfolks, or Dog, like, you know, things like that just, like, fix math. Like, it's such an insane interaction. And Lumiere is amazing bait. Lumiere, if he's standing up, like, people have Hades Lumiere. Like, it's actually pretty insane how much people learn to respect Lumiere in matches. It's the same reason why Skater Mim is probably one of the best cards in Purple Steel at the moment, and why it found itself in is because you're not even able to produce that number, and trading needs to be a lot more favorable in this game, especially with lack of removal. And again, just the accessibility to these cards in general is what made me want to play Ruby Amethyst for a little bit, and also highlight the deck in general. Lackluster was Pirate's Life. The thing is, you are actually pretty present in the low end of the game, so as long as you answer basically 1 for 1 every single time, You don't really need Pirate's Life. Again, it's at 2 anyways. The thing I said is, like, if it get clogged early, I do have to ink it, obviously. If I found it late, sure, I could cycle it maybe once. Or if anything, just play it raw once, because then they just can't drop, especially like Purple Steel matches. If I even let them go that high, like for free. The thing is, you're very interactive. Again, this is not a shark deck. You're very interactive from turns 1 through 4. You're not really letting them do whatever. This isn't red-blue. Pirate's Life is nice in theory, especially with like a shark proc, but in reality, this should probably just be Finders Keepers, or everybody's got a weakness. You do need something to draw more consistently besides Dumbo, but Dumbo has been very good, especially with the deck. The deck demands a lot of different things, and after demanding so much stuff and also breaking a couple of curves, like Dumbo usually can't be answered, especially with high-end decks like Green Blue and Blurple. So again, this was just pretty lackluster. Rafiki, like, it's hard because you do need it. He's like Captain Hook, right? But the thing is, Captain Hook is kind of dead after a couple turns. Like, Captain Hook can't proc Dumbo. Captain Hook doesn't draw if he's banished. He's just a body to challenge. It's the same thing in Blurple, right? Like, if you second star and you draw into all 4 of your Rafikis and a Tipo, like, I mean, might as well just not have played their second star, right? So it's interesting. I think his count could go down to 1, especially with Lumiere having to be correcting things a lot of the time. It is a 2-piece combo. And most of the time you want to be in the demanding position. I don't hate it. I don't love it. It's just Captain Hook. It has to be there, kind of. So I just kind of highlighted it to be more nitpicky because a lot of the cards in the deck are very high quality, and they're just kind of necessary for the deck to run. Rafiki is the only thing that was like, I could just be playing like Mulan, I mean, like Lumiere to take out the lady, you know? A lot less obvious curves to answer curves, but it's what it is. Mole is pretty, again, this is like semi malleable, right? Like, this is basically your Mulligan every time. Again, it follows very, very strict rules, kind of like Purple Steel. You want 1, 2, 3, 4. The thing is, you're not going for strength, so things get a little choppy in the middle, where like you are allowed to exert, you are allowed to quest, you are allowed to sing Disputed, you are allowed to challenge, because you're not looking for strength. You're looking for very high value Disputeds. You're looking for Disputeds that just absolutely obliterate curves. For example, if I were to play into Blurple, which is again most represented deck and all that, or even Amber Steel, they'd play one character and then go into a ramp turn and then play a big character. My Palace Guard and Lumiere would be able to take Aurora, or Rafiki would be able to take Aurora, and Powerline would be queued to Disputed the Tiana. So that's already number 1. That's already insane. Especially if you're on the play. If you're on the play, Tiana never drops. That's pretty insane, now that I think about it. I never had that matchup in practice, but that's actually pretty insane. And then also, if they hit a 1-drop in Blurple, and then they hit Curve on Sail, and then into Genie, you could probably double Disputed the Curve. Otherwise, you could stay standing or bait like an interaction with the 1-drop. Like, you could bait out your Lumiere to take like a freaky hit so that Max Skeef can proc the Disputed on the Genie, and then you can establish your Genie. There's just a lot of small interactions that make the deck a lot better. Again, the deck is just like Purple Steel, and I can't put that hard enough. Like, it's all about incremental advantages from small interactions, and just being better at understanding your resource value, because you will be diluted pretty quick. That is why I do want to add Finders, Keepers, and Second Star. I was a little lucky that my RNG, when I was practicing, I basically always pocketed Genie and Dumbo and kind of kept them alive in my hand, and then kind of just drew and inked. So there's definitely ways to play it, but again, this is definitely the Mulligan that I found most effective, and the curve I found most effective. But again, this is like super malleable, but it is always probably Genie on 4. So further build, the thing is, I found out that with Blurple being so high and Green Blue being so high, especially with Green Blue being some decks that play like Hades, TikTok is pretty broken. TikTok also it pounds Steel down. It's also just another Hades target. Like, giving Hades so many things to target is actually huge, especially in a Blurple. Like, you're just standing still. Like, TikTok, Maui, Elsa, and Genie gets to stand still And the second you do not clear multiple targets and are sideways, you're being abused by Gothel and disputed like immediately. Even like Elsa, if like Mulan's live and Gothel's live, and they're like, oh, I'm gonna be safe, whatever. Like, okay, Elsa. Like if it's Mulan, Lumiere, Gothel, they play stuff. They can't like tap your own thing, so they're just staying like upright. Like Elsa can literally smack a genie for 3, move one from Mulan, and banish it. Like that interaction is so much setup. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, but if you complete 1, 2, 3, 4, your top end is like bread and butter. Like your top end just starts doing things that are just not fair, because your 1, 2, 3, 4 are just the baseline for like an insane successful top end, which nobody's able to compete with Blurple's top end right now. That is the problem. And when decks like Purple Steel and Amber Steel run out of gas, they don't have a top end. They don't have a top end to continuously do this. And Ruby Amethyst does. It's a super hard deck to grasp in general. This one was a lot more informational. I'm not trying to bait anybody into playing this. It is super hard. I won't lie. Like, this deck likely will not be successful if you play it like for the first 10 games. But the thing is, it really shapes itself, again, just like Purple Steel, to the pilot. And the more you play it, the more you understand where things kind of like fit. I was lucky enough to have a teammate that actually played this deck no matter what. And seeing it is believing it, and playing against it is believing it, and playing with it is believing it. But Ruby Amethyst is legit. I think that in DLC Milwaukee, for the players that have already played this and are probably as close to a list as I am, with a couple of count changes and things like that, with more draw, I think they're going to be in a very good position to take some games on people. I mean, it is I'm pretty worried, actually. I'm pretty worried about seeing this deck. I'm not gonna lie. I think that this deck kind of eats everything. Yeah, I think this deck kind of eats everything except like green steel, aggro, maybe. But on the play, I just cannot see it not winning. There's just so many ways to break a curve in this deck. It is insane. But again, thank you guys very much, especially with this more in-depth video of Ruby Amethyst, since it is one of the most intense decks this format. But yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Let me know any questions. And DLC Milwaukee, 1 week. Super nervous.